Let's talk vinyl.
Indie rocker Mike Fox is cracking open his record collection, one album at a time. If you're listening on a regular podcast app, you'll get the vinyl talk, but if you want the full experience, music and all, smash that link in the show description and tune in on Mixcloud. Here's your host, Mike Fox.
Greetings, vinyl addicts and lovers of high-resolution sound. It's time for us to gather around and talk about the finest form of music consumption out there. Let's talk vinyl. I'm your host, Mike Fox. Today I'm going to talk with you about the very first vinyl record that I ever purchased from Bob Dylan and the band, The Basement Tapes. Now, to my Mixcloud listeners, I opened the episode with Odds and Ends on side 1, track 1 of that double album. Odds and Ends, not exactly your heavy philosophical Dylan tune, almost like Dylan poking fun at the idea of traditional songwriting. There's an intentional looseness to the song, as if they were all saying, yeah, this might not make much sense, but it feels good. Okay, now since this is the very first episode of Let's Talk Vinyl, before we dive deeper into this amazing double album, Bob Dylan and the band, The Basement Tapes, I'd like to give you a quick summary of what the show Let's Talk Vinyl is all about. I'm here to celebrate the only true and authentic way to really experience the music that you truly love, deep down in your heart, deep down in your soul, vinyl. I know what you're saying, especially those of you that are used to streaming. You're probably saying, well, yeah, but it can be a bit pricey. But you see, that's why I am the type that hunts for deals. If it's cheap or cheaper or cheap-esque, guess what? I'm buying it. On each and every episode, I'll spotlight one record from my personal vault. And of course, we're talking classics, plus hidden gems, including albums that were criticized quite heavily, but guess who owns them and likes them? Me. I'll also talk to you about some new or newish or new-esque releases that deserve a place in the vinyl spotlight. So if it's in my collection, then it makes the cut. And hey, now if there's an album that you would like me to feature and I might not own it or I don't own it after we dialogue back and forth, guess what? I'm accepting donations. Wink. Now here's the deal. Every single episode of Let's Talk Vinyl focuses on one album at a time, or one double album, or a 45, but just one. As you heard in the intro, the best place to experience the full version of this show for free is on an app hardly anyone here in the United States is aware of, as it's from the UK. This app is called Mixcloud. Mixcloud. I'm going to keep saying it again and again until it sinks in. Mixcloud, especially because to the Mixcloud listeners, there are podcast listeners that aren't aware of what Mixcloud is. They know what Spotify is. They know what Apple Music is, but they don't know what Mixcloud is, so we got to bring them up to speed. So I apologize if this is stuff that you already know about, since you're already knee-deep into Mixcloud and knee-deep into this episode with me. So before I talk about this album, Bob Dylan and the band, The Basement Tapes, I just want to let the podcast listeners know what Mixcloud is. It's a platform that lets creators like myself legally play fully licensed tracks for a super low monthly fee without the fear of takedowns or any of that copyright drama. That's right. That means if you're listening on a regular podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, don't get me wrong, you'll still get to hear the stories along with the deep dives and all that groovy vinyl talk. And yeah, I mean, if that's enough for you, if you're not looking for anything more than that, and wait a minute, yeah, you're just wanting to hear the sound of my voice, well, I'm actually flattered, truly. But if all you want is the sound of my voice, yeah, like I said, I'm honored, but also I have to admit, I do feel a little bit used. Now, don't you want the full experience? Right. Don't you want to listen to the vinyl with me? You get to hear 3 tracks from one album. Come on. Or if I do an episode on, let's say, a single 45, you'll get to only hear 2. But come on. That's not bad. So if you aren't on Mixcloud, just go ahead and hit that link in the show description. Head over to Mixcloud.com or the Mixcloud app and start this episode from where we're talking now, so you don't have to hear the intro again. So let's talk vinyl the way it was meant to be. Back in the late 60s, Robbie Robertson and the band moved up to Woodstock, New York. New York City was just too noisy and expensive to create freely. They needed some space. Their manager pointed them toward a quiet spot upstate, where they found a rundown pink house on 100 acres of land. It was remote, imperfect, and exactly what they needed. Didn't seem that way at first. They set up shop in the basement of the Big Pink, despite a friend warning them that the acoustics were terrible. Concrete floors, cinder block walls, a giant metal furnace. This is what you would call a recording engineer's nightmare, but they threw down a rug, set up some old tour mics, and hit the record button. Now, soon Bob Dylan started dropping by. He loved the vibe and suggested that they work on the songs together. Now, this was material he could pass on to other artists through his publishing company. And since Dylan had been supporting them financially after his motorcycle accident, it felt like the right time for the band to give something back to Dylan. And what followed was a string of raw, intimate sessions, songs laid down on tape, not for the charts, not for radio, just for the sake of making music. They weren't chasing perfection, they were chasing inspiration. Dylan began writing and casually jamming in what's referred to as the Red Room, a room painted red in his home in nearby Birdcliff, a rural artist colony just outside of Woodstock. What's cool is that many of the songs that emerged from those sessions started in the Red Room and then transitioned to Big Pink, helped birth the entire Americana movement. You can feel the shift. Dylan's lyrics got more surreal but grounded, and musically he moved into a mix of folk, country, and roots rock that was deeply influential. It's almost like the Red Room was the cocoon, and Big Pink was where the butterfly came out. Those casual basement recordings, they eventually became the Basement Tapes, one of rock's first legendary bootlegs. Not planned, not polished, just real. Now, Bob Dylan once remarked, begin quote, "They weren't demos for myself. They were demos of songs to give to other people to record. We were kind of just trying to write songs that might be good for the publishing company," end quote. Garth Hudson had set up a reel-to-reel tape recorder, an Ampex to be exact, some basic microphones, and a makeshift sound setup. No producer, no fancy equipment, just lo-fi DIY recording. In October of 1967, Bob Dylan and Jerry Grossman, who were joint owners of a publishing company known as Dwarf Music, copyrighted a 14-song demo tape. They also registered the compositions with Dwarf Music. After that, acetates and tapes of the songs started spreading around among recording artists who were interested in them, as well as folks in Woodstock. Soon people started making copies of the recordings. Before the Basement Tapes would officially be released, bootleggers had assembled a no-frills bootleg album of some of these tracks, and they called it Great White Wonder. It was the first major bootleg released in 1969. It also included demos, live tapes, and songs with the band. Now, none of it officially was available at the time, but was issued anonymously in a plain white sleeve. It became a cult hit, sparking the bootleg scene and deepening Dylan's mystique as an artist with a vault full of hidden gems. My personal favorite song on this double album is You Ain't Going Nowhere on Side 4, Track 1. It's a laid-back country-tinged tune with surreal, whimsical lyrics and a catchy chorus. And the song has a playful, almost cryptic tone. The refrain, "Woo-wee, ride me high, tomorrow's the day, my bride's gonna come," feels like it could be about anticipation, freedom, or just poking fun at the songwriting tropes. The Byrds also recorded a version of it. Interestingly, Dylan later revised the lyrics for his own 1971 version, taking a playful jab at the Byrds for getting one of the lines wrong in their cover. Now, the album wasn't released until 1975, and by that point, many of these songs were already hits. Fans were yearning for more, and throughout the decades since, more of those sessions were revealed. In fact, in 2014, the complete basement tapes were finally unearthed. I can't help but wonder how some of the hardcore folk purists felt when they heard these songs. Did they understand Bob's desire for going electric earlier? Did they realize that this man is a poet and not just changing times, but also life changes impact how an artist approaches music? You hear him having a good time with Robbie Robertson in the band. These songs are timeless. Well, this has been a lot of fun talking vinyl with you. And for those of you listening on Mixcloud, playing the vinyl as well. So in the next episode, I'm going to play 3 tracks from Queen's 1975 masterpiece, A Night at the Opera. I look forward to our next deep dive. Until then, let's preserve the connoisseurship of music together. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let's talk vinyl together. Until next time, I will see you on the B-side.